everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be diving into some really fascinating accounts of possible alien encounters and artifacts.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited too. We've got a pretty cool mix of sources for this one.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Some excerpts from the History Channel's Ancient Aliens show a bunch of snippets from Wikipedia and a few other cool online articles that I dug up.
Awesome.
And all of it kind of points to this really cool idea that maybe, just maybe, aliens have been kind of nudging human history along for a long time.
It's a popular theory.
Definitely popular and a lot of fun to think about. Now, we're not here to convince you that little green men built the pyramids or anything.
Of course not.
But we are going to present the information in a compelling way and kind of let you draw your own conclusions.
It's all about critical thinking, right?
Absolutely. We're flooded with information these days, so learning how to sift through it all and weigh different perspectives is key.
Could not agree more.
For sure. So let's just jump right in.
Okay.
First up, we're talking about mysterious metals and technologies.
Whoa.
One of the things that really stood out to me was the story of King Tut's dagger.
Okay.
It was made from meteoric iron, which is pretty unusual for ancient Egypt.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and here's the thing. There are no other artifacts like it from that time period.
So it's unique.
Totally unique, like a lone wolf.
That raises a question.
What's that?
Where did the ancient Egyptians get the knowledge to work with that kind of material? It's not like they had, blast furnaces lying around.
Right. It's not like they could just pop down to the local Home Depot.
Exactly. And what's really interesting?
Tell me.
If we look at myths and legends from around the world,
Okay.
we find all these stories of gods teaching humans about metallurgy.
Really?
Yeah. You've got Hephaestus in Greece, the Bridget in Celtic lore, Kanago in Japan.
Wow.
It's like a recurring theme. So could these stories be based on actual encounters with beings who possessed advanced metallurgical knowledge? It makes you wonder.
Yeah, that's a really cool thought. Maybe our ancestors were witnessing something they just couldn't explain, so they attributed it to the gods.
Right. It's like they were trying to make sense of something totally outside their frame of reference.
Definitely. Okay, so speaking of advanced knowledge, let's talk about orichalcum.
Okay.
You familiar with that?
Vaguely rings a bell.
Okay, so it's this legendary metal that Plato described as coming from Atlantis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he said it was an alloy of copper and zinc.
Okay.
And get this, the shipwreck that they discovered near Sicily actually had ingots of a very similar metal.
What? Really?
Yeah, it's like something straight out of a legend coming to life.
That's insane.
I know, right? And then there's the whole thing with quasi-crystals.
Quasi-crystals.
Yeah, they discovered them in a meteorite.
Okay.
And these are materials with this super unique atomic structure.
Okay.
But it's a structure that's not found naturally on Earth.
So where did it come from?
Exactly. It points to some seriously advanced technology. Maybe even beyond what we can even comprehend right now.
It's mind-boggling.
Totally. And some people, even alleged whistleblowers, they claim that extraterrestrial vehicles use alloys made from these quasi-crystals.
Really? Wow.
It gets your mind racing, doesn't it?
For sure.
Okay, so we've got these mysterious metals, possible alien tech, and now we're moving on to something even more mind-boggling.
What's that?
Pyramids.
Oh, yeah. The pyramids.
Now everybody knows about the pyramids of Egypt, right?
Of course.
But what I found fascinating was that pyramids exist all over the globe.
I never really thought about that.
And even though they're separated by these vast distances, a lot of them have really similar design elements.
It's like they're following some kind of blueprint.
That's what I was thinking. For example, the Candi Suku Pyramid in Indonesia.
Yeah.
It looks a lot like El Castillo and Chichen Itza in Mexico.
Wow.
I mean, how is that even possible?
It's one of those big questions that has baffled researchers for centuries, right?
Right.
Were these structures built independently, or could there have been some kind of common source of inspiration?
Exactly.
Some researchers have proposed a pretty radical theory
What's that?
that pyramids were part of a global energy network.
Okay, that sounds a little out there.
Yeah, I know it sounds like something out of science fiction,
It kind of does.
but there's actually some evidence to consider.
Okay.
So research at Giza has actually detected an electrical current running through the Great Pyramid.
What?
Yeah, and they've also found piezoelectric quartz there, which is a material that generates electricity when it's compressed.
So it's like they built a giant battery.
It kind of is. It's pretty wild.
That's crazy. But if these pyramids were so technologically advanced, why were they abandoned?
Yeah, what happened to the civilization that built them?
Good question.
That's one of the biggest mysteries, and there are tons of theories out there.
Okay, like what?
Well, some people believe that knowledge was just lost over time,
Okay.
maybe because of wars or natural disasters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Others suggest that the information was deliberately suppressed,
Really? By who?
maybe by those in power who were afraid of the implications of such advanced technology.
Huh. Interesting.
It's a topic we could literally spend hours talking about.
Oh, I bet. But for now, let's move on to a place that's kind of shrouded in mystery and ice.
Where?
Antarctica.
Ooh, Antarctica. Now we're talking.
Yeah, this is where we start getting into those tales of frozen secrets, covert operations, and maybe even a lost civilization or two.
I'm so ready for this.
Me too. So we're talking about Admiral Byrd's secret mission Operation High Jump.
Right.
And his account of encountering aircraft that could fly from pole to pole in an instant.
Like super fast.
Yeah, instantly. Technology that was way beyond anything we had at the time.
So are we talking like flying saucers here?
Well, his account doesn't specifically say flying saucers.
Okay.
But it's definitely open to interpretation.
For sure.
And what's even more intriguing is that a satellite image from 2018 actually captured something that looks like a contrail over Antarctica,
No way.
even though there were no known flight paths in the area.
That's crazy.
It's these kinds of unexplained phenomena that really fuel the speculation about what's really going on down there.
Right. It's like, what are they hiding?
Exactly. So are we talking of the possibility of a lost civilization in Antarctica?
Ooh.
Maybe even Atlantis?
That would be wild.
Is there any evidence that Antarctica was once a lush, thriving continent?
Well, there is a theory.
Yeah.
It's a little controversial.
All right, I like controversial.
Okay, good. So the theory is that Antarctica was once this tropical paradise.
Really?
Yeah. But it was rapidly frozen because of a crustal displacement.
Whoa, what's a crustal displacement?
It basically means that the Earth's crust shifted and Antarctica ended up at the South Pole.
So like the whole continent just moved.
Yeah. This theory is based on the work of Charles Hapgood.
Okay.
And believe it or not, Albert Einstein actually supported his ideas.
Einstein. Okay, so this theory has got some serious weight behind it.
It definitely does.
But what about the Peary Race map?
What's that?
It's this 16th century map that shows Antarctica as ice-free way before it was officially discovered.
Huh. How's that possible?
That's the big question, right? It depicts Antarctica with incredible accuracy.
Really?
Yeah, including coastlines that were only discovered like recently beneath the ice.
That's mind-blowing. So how did they know?
Some people believe that the map makers had access to ancient knowledge, maybe passed down from a civilization that existed before our current understanding of history.
It's like we're missing a huge chunk of the story.
That's what it feels like. Okay, so we've got a possible lost civilization, mysterious maps, unexplained aerial phenomena.
Yeah.
But then there's the whole Nazi connection.
But Nazis, what were they doing in Antarctica?
That's what everyone wants to know. Why were they so interested in Antarctica?
Yeah, were they just exploring or were they looking for something a little more sinister?
Right. So the Nazis' fascination with Antarctica is actually well documented.
Okay.
They even established a base there, Base 211. And there's a lot of speculation that they were searching for advanced technology.
Yeah.
Maybe even evidence of alien bases.
Alien bases in Antarctica?
Yeah.
This is getting good.
Right. Some people even believe that they actually found something there
Really?
and tried to keep it a secret from the rest of the world.
A secret alien technology. That's like straight out of a movie.
I know, right? But you know, all this talk about advanced civilizations and lost technologies,
Yeah.
it makes me wonder about something a little bit more personal.
What's that?
The possibility of alien-human interaction.
Ooh, okay.
Like, what if they didn't just observe us?
Yeah.
What if they actually intervened in our evolution?
Like actively shaped who we are.
Maybe even manipulated our DNA.
That's a fascinating idea.
Right.
And it leads us to this whole concept of hybrid beings and genetic manipulation.
Okay, I'm listening.
So one of the most enduring stories out there is the biblical account of the Nephilim,
Yeah, I've heard of those.
these giant offspring of sons of God and human women. And similar accounts exist in Greek mythology, like Hercules and Perseus, for example,
Huh.
and in cultures all over the world.
So it's like this idea of gods mating with humans.
Yeah, it's a universal theme, it seems.
That is really interesting. And then there are the Sumerian accounts of the Anunnaki.
Right, the Anunnaki.
These powerful beings who came to Earth seeking gold and created humans as a slave race.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Could these stories be based on actual encounters with extraterrestrial beings who tampered with human DNA?
It's a question that some researchers take very seriously.
I can see why.
And it brings up a really interesting point about the FOXP2 gene.
Okay, what about that one?
So this gene is essential for language,
Okay.
but it seemingly appeared out of nowhere in our evolutionary history.
Really?
Yeah. Some people theorize that it was gifted or maybe even implanted by extraterrestrials.
Wow.
I mean, think about it. Our ability to communicate complex ideas,
Yeah.
it could be the result of alien intervention.
Whoa. That's a mind-blowing thought. Like, our very ability to have this conversation could be thanks to aliens.
That's a pretty wild idea, right?
Definitely wild. Okay, I am officially feeling a little overwhelmed with all this information.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
Maybe we should take a break and come back to this later.
That sounds like a good plan.
Okay, awesome. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the mysteries of ancient aliens and their possible influence on humanity.
Can't wait.
Okay, so we're back, and my brain is still buzzing from our last discussion.
I hear you. There's just so much to unpack.
I know, right? We were talking about the possibility of aliens messing with human DNA and the FOXP2 gene.
Right, the one that's like crucial for language.
Yeah, just appearing out of nowhere in our evolutionary history.
It's like someone hit the fast forward button on human development.
Seriously, it's so strange.
It is. And, as we were discussing that Sumerian account of the Anunnaki creating humans as a slave race, you mentioned how that story is kind of similar to other creation myths, like the biblical account of Adam and Eve.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's that these stories, even though they're from totally different cultures and time periods,
Right.
they might be drawing from some common source.
It's like a faint echo of some ancient event. you know,
That makes sense.
resonating through generations and shaping our understanding of where we come from.
Okay, I get that those parallels are interesting, but those are religious texts, right?
Yeah.
What about physical evidence? Is there anything tangible that suggests these ancient myths are more than just stories?
Well, some researchers point to the recurring motif of winged creatures in ancient art and mythology.
Okay, winged creatures.
Yeah, like think about the Anunnaki,
Okay.
often depicted as these towering figures with wings.
Right.
Similar imagery pops up in Egyptian hieroglyphs,
Yeah.
Greek mythology, even the Bible, with its descriptions of angels.
So are we saying that angels were actually aliens?
It's a theory that some people find compelling.
I mean, that's a pretty big leap.
It is a big leap. But proponents of the ancient astronaut theory suggest that what our ancestors perceived as divine beings might have been extraterrestrial visitors with advanced technology.
Okay, I can kind of see that.
The kind of technology that would have seemed miraculous or even godlike to people who were just figuring out how to smelt bronze.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so let's say for argument's sake that these winged beings were actually aliens.
Okay.
What was their purpose? Were they here to help us, or were they up to something more sinister?
That's a question that's been debated for centuries.
Then?
And the answer might not be black and white.
Okay.
Just like there are good and bad people here on Earth, there might be different factions of extraterrestrials with their own agendas.
Right, it's not like all aliens would be on the same team.
Exactly. It's not that simple.
That makes things even more complicated.
It definitely does. It adds another layer of intrigue to the whole puzzle of human history.
Oh, for sure. But let's not forget about the accounts of destructive interventions.
Like what?
Like the story of the Great Flood.
Oh yeah, the Great Flood.
It's a recurring theme in mythologies worldwide.
It is.
Could these cataclysmic events have been orchestrated by extraterrestrial beings?
Interesting.
Maybe as a way to reset or reshape human civilization?
Like a cosmic reset button.
Right. But is there anything to suggest that the Great Flood was something other than a natural disaster?
Well, if you look at ancient Sumerian legends, the Great Flood wasn't a natural event. It was a deliberate act by the god Enlil.
Enlil.
He was fed up with the noise and chaos of humanity.
Okay.
So he decided to wipe the slate clean.
So Enlil, another potential candidate for an extraterrestrial being posing as a god.
It's a possibility that some researchers entertain.
It's a pretty wild thought.
It is. And what's interesting is that this Sumerian account is actually older than the biblical story of Noah's Ark.
Huh. So could the Bible be retelling a much older event?
Maybe one that was influenced by extraterrestrials.
That's a pretty radical idea. But it does make you think about where these ancient stories come from. And if these powerful beings did play a role in shaping our past, are they still watching? Are they still intervening in more subtle ways?
That's a question a lot of people are asking, especially with all the UFO sightings and reports of alien encounters we see today.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes you wonder if they've never really left.
That's a little creepy.
It is a little creepy.
Okay.
But for now, let's shift gears and talk about something a little more tangible.
Okay, like what?
The mysterious stone structures found all over the world.
Oh, yeah, the pyramids, Stonehenge, the megaliths of Easter Island.
Exactly. These ancient wonders have been baffling people for centuries.
I mean, how were they built? What was their purpose? And could they be evidence of extraterrestrial influence?
Right. It's mind-boggling to think that our ancestors, with their supposedly limited technology, were able to create these massive and incredibly precise structures.
It really is. I mean, take the pyramids, for example.
Okay.
The Great Pyramid of Giza is made up of over 2 million blocks of stone,
Wow.
some weighing as much as 80 tons. That's insane. How did they even move those things?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
How did the ancient Egyptians quarry, transport, and lift these massive blocks?
And what about their alignment?
Yeah, they're aligned with incredible accuracy to the cardinal points in certain star constellations.
It's almost as if they had access to knowledge and technology that we're only just beginning to understand.
Right. And then you got Stonehenge,
Stonehenge.
this prehistoric monument made up of these massive standing stones arranged in a circular pattern.
I've always wanted to visit Stonehenge.
It's on my bucket list too. So some of these stones weigh as much as 50 tons.
Wow.
And they were transported from over 150 miles away.
That's so far. The logistics of moving and erecting those stones are mind-boggling.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Were they using techniques that have been lost to time?
Right.
Or could they have had help from beings with a more advanced understanding of engineering and physics?
Hey, how else do you explain it?
Exactly. And it's not just the construction of these structures that's intriguing.
It's also their purpose.
Yeah, what were they used for?
Some researchers believe they were used as astronomical observatories,
Okay,
aligned with the stars to track celestial movements.
makes sense.
Others suggest they were used for religious ceremonies or as portals to other dimensions.
Portals to other dimensions. That's pretty out there.
I know, it's a wild thought.
But it's cool. It speaks to our enduring fascination with the unknown and the possibility that there's more to reality than we can perceive.
I love that. It's like these ancient cultures were tapping into something we haven't even discovered yet.
Maybe they're way ahead of us in ways we can't even imagine.
And while we're on the topic of mysterious structures, what about those strange geoglyphs found in places like Nazca, Peru?
Oh yeah, the Nazca lines?
Those giant figures etched into the desert floor, they're so massive you can only really appreciate them from the air.
It's true. They're incredible. They depict all sorts of animals, plants, and geometric shapes.
I know, right? And some of them stretch for miles across the desert.
How did they even create those?
Yeah.
And what was their purpose?
Were they messages to the gods? Or maybe to beings watching from the sky?
Some researchers believe that the Nazca lines were created to be seen by extraterrestrial visitors.
Really?
Yeah, perhaps as landing strips or navigational markers.
Like an ancient airport.
Exactly. Others suggest they were ceremonial pathways or astronomical calendars.
It's amazing how these ancient structures and artifacts continue to spark our imaginations and challenge our understanding of the past.
They really do. They're like tangible reminders that we still have so much to learn about the history of our planet and the possibility of extraterrestrial influence.
You know, we've talked about pyramids, stone circles, and giant geoglyphs, incredible feats of engineering.
Yeah, pretty impressive stuff.
But what about those accounts of advanced technology found in ancient texts? The kinds of things that sound like they belong in science fiction.
You mean descriptions of flying machines, weapons of mass destruction,
Right.
other seemingly futuristic technologies?
Exactly, like the Vimanas described in ancient Hindu texts as flying palaces or chariots of the gods.
Right, the Vimanas.
Could those be accounts of advanced aircraft, maybe even spacecraft, that our ancestors witnessed?
It's a possibility that some researchers are exploring, especially considering the level of detail and technical language used in some of those descriptions.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
And then you have the accounts of weapons capable of devastating entire cities, like those described in the Mahabharata.
The Mahabharata?
Yeah, it's an ancient Indian epic.
Huh.
Could those be descriptions of ancient nuclear weapons?
Whoa!
Or some other type of advanced weaponry we can't even comprehend yet?
It's crazy to think that our ancestors might have possessed technology that we're only just now rediscovering. But if they did, what happened to that knowledge? Was it lost over time or maybe intentionally suppressed?
That's the million-dollar question. Some people believe that this advanced technology came from extraterrestrial intervention,
Okay.
and the knowledge was eventually lost or hidden away to keep it from falling into the wrong hands.
So we're talking about a possible cover-up, a conspiracy to hide the truth about our technological past. But why? Who would benefit from keeping this knowledge secret?
That's a complex question, and there aren't any easy answers. Some people suggest that governments and powerful organizations have been working to keep the truth about extraterrestrial contact and advanced technology under wraps for decades.
Okay.
Maybe out of fear of the chaos and disruption such revelations could cause.
It's like something out of the X-Files, right?
Exactly. It's definitely giving me some X-Files vibes.
It makes you wonder about the motivations of those in power and if we're really being told the whole story about our past or even our present.
Absolutely. It underscores the importance of critical thinking and questioning the narratives we're presented with.
I agree 100%. But for now, I think we need to take another break.
Okay, good idea. This is a lot to process.
It really is. And we still have more to uncover.
So much more to explore.
We'll be back soon to wrap up our deep dive into the world of ancient aliens and their possible influence on human history.
Can't wait. Stay tuned, everyone.
Okay, so we are back for the final part of our deep dive into these ancient alien mysteries. And wow, I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything we've talked about.
Yeah, it's a lot to process for sure.
From like ancient Sumerian texts to possible Nazi bases in Antarctica, it's been a wild ride.
Definitely a wild ride. But, all this talk about advanced technologies and extraterrestrial interventions,
Yeah.
it makes me think about the people who claim to have like direct contact with these otherworldly beings.
Okay, you mean like prophets or mystics, or people who say they've had like alien encounters.
Exactly. Throughout history, there have always been these individuals who seem to possess extraordinary abilities or knowledge that just defies conventional explanation.
Yeah, like who?
Well, one example that comes to mind is Nostradamus.
Oh, yeah, Nostradamus.
That 16th century French astrologer and physician,
Right.
famous for his super cryptic prophecies.
Didn't some people believe he predicted everything from the French Revolution to the rise of Hitler?
That's right. And while some people dismiss his writings as like vague and open to interpretation, others believe he had access to knowledge that was beyond the reach of ordinary humans.
Okay, so where did this knowledge come from?
That's the million-dollar question. Could he have been tapping into some kind of cosmic consciousness? Or maybe receiving information from extraterrestrial beings?
It's a fascinating thought. It's like those stories of ancient oracles who would channel messages from the gods.
Right. It's a very similar concept.
Okay, but let's bring this back to science for a second. We've been talking a lot about the possibility of extraterrestrial intervention in human evolution and the development of advanced technology.
Yeah.
But is there any scientific evidence to support these claims?
Well, we already talked about the discovery of quasi-crystals in meteorites, which really suggests a level of technological sophistication beyond our current understanding.
Right.
But there's also the work of researchers like Dr. Masaru Emoto.
Dr. Masaru Emoto?
Yeah, he studied water crystals. And he actually claimed that human thoughts, words, and emotions could influence their physical structure.
Wait, are you saying that our thoughts can change the physical world?
That's exactly what Dr. Emoto's research suggests. And if our thoughts can influence something as basic as water, imagine the possibilities.
Okay, that's pretty mind-blowing.
Right. Could we be tapping into a power that we don't fully understand yet?
Okay, but how does this connect back to the ancient astronaut theory?
Well, if human consciousness has the power to influence the physical world, it's not a huge leap to imagine that more advanced beings could be manipulating reality on a much grander scale.
I see where you're going with this.
Perhaps they're using their technology and consciousness to shape events on Earth, guide our evolution, influence our destiny.
Wow, that's a pretty heavy concept to grasp. It's like we're all part of some huge cosmic experiment.
It certainly is a thought-provoking idea that makes you question the nature of free will and how much control we really have over our own lives.
So we've gone down this incredible rabbit hole exploring ancient mysteries and modern marvels. We've considered the possibility of extraterrestrial intervention in human history, pondered the implications of advanced technology, and even touched on the power of consciousness.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. So what's the takeaway from all of this?
I think the most important takeaway is that we should never stop questioning, never stop exploring, and never stop being curious about the world around us.
I like that.
The universe is full of mysteries, and the more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know.
That's a great point. This deep dive has definitely expanded my horizons and challenged me to think outside the box. I'm still left with a lot of questions, though.
And that's a good thing. Questions lead to inquiry, which leads to discovery.
True.
Who knows what incredible insights and breakthroughs we might uncover if we keep our minds open to the possibility of the extraordinary.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end our deep dive on. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey.
It was my pleasure, and thank you for bringing such fascinating and thought-provoking source material to the table.
Until next time, everyone keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep looking up at the stars. You never know what you might find.